Hi, I'm Reverend Wendy Craig-Purcell here at the Unity Center in San Diego. Thank you so much for watching today. If you'd like to support the work that we do here, please consider making a contribution. Go to our website. It's easy to do. Thank you in advance for that contribution. When we think of turning points, when I think of turning points, I think of those times in my life that something happened that completely redirected the course of my life. For me, probably the single biggest redirect was my redirect out of high school. Instead of going on to college, going on for a very short stint with Ice Capades, quitting that for reasons too long to go into here, and suddenly being introduced shortly after that to Unity. That was a big, big turning point for me. Completely redirected the course of my life. And I'm sure that you can sit here and think across the span of your life to things that happened in your life that completely redirected you. Or you could say, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And sometimes those turning points, those redirections are joy-filled and positive and exciting. And sometimes it can be very painful. It can be a redirect because of a significant change or loss in our lives. One of my very favorite Unity poems is a poem that was written quite a number of years ago by Martha Smock. She's no longer with us, but Martha was for decades the editor of Unity's daily devotional magazine, Daily Word. And she wrote a poem called No Other Way. And it really deals with this idea that oftentimes we only recognize the significance of things as we look back upon them. Here's what she writes. Could we but see the pattern of our days, we should discern how devious were the ways by which we came to this, the present time, this place in life, and we should see the climb our soul has made up through the years. We should forget the hurts, the wanderings, the fears, the wastelands of our life, and know that we could come no other way or grow into our good without these steps our feet found hard to take, our faith found hard to meet. The road of life winds on, and we like travelers go from turn to turn until we come to know that life is endless and that we are forever inhabitants of eternity. Isn't that a beautiful, beautiful piece? Turning points, turning points. In this series, we are actually looking at turning points that we are consciously choosing to make in our lives. And today I want to encourage us to look at a turning point to peace of mind. From ancient times to modern times, from business leaders to spiritual teachers, the idea of peace of mind is held up as something so worthy to cultivate and to experience. I think it is absolutely true of us today that we hunger for that internal quality of peacefulness. One of my favorite quotes, and I don't know to whom to attribute this, is this quote, this idea. If you had the choice, would you choose the granting of your petition or the grace to be peaceful, whether it is granted or not? Powerful. If you had the choice, would you choose a granting of your petition or the grace to be peaceful, whether it is granted or not? In my younger years, I would have to say that I wanted the granting of my petition. But as I've deepened and continued in my own spiritual journey and path and practice, I can truly say that what I really desire is the internal peace that comes, whether my petition is granted or not. For that peace is an eternal peace. I'm reading a book right now called Mindful of Race. It's written by Ruth King. And one of the things, she's a mindfulness teacher, a meditation teacher steeped in the Buddhist tradition. And one of the things she writes about is this idea that nothing is personal, nothing is permanent, and nothing is perfect. Nothing is personal, nothing is perfect, and nothing is permanent. That's a powerful teaching. That's a powerful teaching, and it's very much at the heart, I think, of cultivating peace of mind. There are 6 ideas that I want to share with you, and the first is built upon some of Ruth's teachings here. The first is a turning point to peace of mind comes when we learn not to take anything personally. Does that sound familiar? How many of you read Don Miguel Ruiz's book years ago, The 4 Agreements? And what is the first agreement? I hear, don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. Maybe it's not the first agreement, but it's one of the 4 agreements. Don't take anything personally. That's not always easy to do, is it? That's why we call it a practice. That's why it's called a practice, so that we do get better at being able to not take things personally. It means that when we notice that we are hooked, we're hooked by that driver that wouldn't let us in. We're hooked by that nasty salesperson. We're hooked by the mood of our spouse or our coworker or the changes going on in the office, and we can feel that agitation, and we're making it all about us. We go, wait a minute. Let me know there's another way. Let me practice unhooking. Let me realize that everything is not all about me. In fact, many times, very little is all about us. Do not take it personally, to catch ourselves when we do. And when we catch ourselves, to go, hey, wait a minute, nothing is perfect, nothing is permanent, and this isn't personal either. So breathe into that. Yeah, can you feel the peace of mind that comes when we unhook? Can you? Second is when we learn to let it go. Say that with me. When we learn to let it go. When we learn to let it go. What does it feel like when you let go? Good. Yes, I agree. Any other feelings? Huh? Relief, yes. Yes. When we let go, do you ever feel when you let go a feeling of internal spaciousness and expansion? Kind of a freeing. When we learn to let it go, it's amazing how we hold on to things for such a long time, how we rehearse the past, how we rehearse the hurt, how we keep clinging to it, instead of letting it be something that we move through and that it moves through us. It's like the little bear that was out in the woods and came upon a campfire that had been left unattended, and there was a kettle of food cooking on over the campfire. And the bear was hungry, so the bear grabbed the hot kettle to get the food. But in grabbing the hot kettle, he was feeling the burn of the kettle, but rather than letting go, he held on to it tighter and tighter and tighter and got more and more harmed by it. Can you relate to that bear at all? Can you relate to the feeling of just holding on to the very thing that you need to let go of? Can you relate to it? These practices, these ideas are not anything new. They're not anything new because the things that we struggle with, the things that come up that frustrate us in life, or the experience of frustration, the experience of getting hooked, is a very old, very common experience. This is why Marcus Aurelius in the 2nd century is speaking about things that still apply today, This is why the teachings of Jesus, the teachings of any spiritual master or teacher, regardless of the period of time in which they physically walk the planet, still hold true. Jesus said, do not be anxious about your life. We could just stop right there, right? Right? Have you ever noticed how you don't have to read the whole Bible? You can just take a couple of really important words, usually found in the New Testament and in Jesus' teachings, and go, wait a minute, I could just live with that for a while. Let me see how good I can get at that. Do not be anxious about your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink, nor about your body, what you shall put on. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? Is it? Yes, yes. Therefore, be not anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? Your heavenly Father knows you have need of them all. But seek first the kingdom. Do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. To seek first the kingdom, we understand that mystically and metaphysically to refer to a consciousness of the divine, a consciousness of God, that when we seek that first, everything else starts to fall into place in our lives. Truly, everything else starts to fall into place in our lives. But as human beings, we usually get it very backwards. We try to get all the things out here so that we can have that inner state, but it never works that way. We cultivate the inner state first. This is why Marcus Aurelius said, this is the most important thing. It is the ground of health, and it is the ground of strength to seek and cultivate peace of mind. Third turning point, when we learn to be here now, to be here now. Say that with me. To be here now. If we really get what that means, that is such a moment-to-moment practice. How many of you still experience the monkey mind? Not just when you meditate, the monkey mind, the mind that is just jumping all over the place. That your body is in one place, but you are entirely somewhere else. And not even one somewhere else. Multi somewhere else's. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about, right? This is, again, why this inner practice of slowing down, quieting down, training ourselves to be more mindfully present. We can't be mindfully present in any place other than the here and now. The here and now. This is an old Zen monk story of being fully present in the here and now. And being fully present in that here and now means being with and allowing whatever is arising as it is arising. Neither grasping for it nor resisting it. And knowing that if there is a way to move through it and beyond it, you will be shown or you will know what that way is. But you must first be here now. And so a Zen monk was out and came upon a cliff. He was not paying attention. He wasn't a very good Zen monk for this part of it. And he started to fall. And as he started to fall, he held on to a vine. And as he's holding on to this vine, he looks up. And there are 2 tigers that had been chasing him. And he's very grateful that those tigers didn't get him. And he's holding on to that vine, and he happens to look down, and it's a long way down. And there are 2 more tigers there licking their chops, looking up at him. And he's holding on to this vine, and he looks up one more time, and now are there not only those 2 tigers, but there are 2 mice that are gnawing on the vine that he is holding on to. And in the moment that he sees those 2 mice gnawing on the vine, he notices the most exquisite strawberry, absolutely in reach. And he reaches for it, he grabs it, and he enjoys the best strawberry of his entire life. And like all good Zen stories, it ends right there. Because it's about being here now. How many relationships would be enriched if we were really fully present when we are with the other? Really fully present. Do you think it could make a difference? To really be fully present with our beloved, with our partner, with our children, even with our ex? Even with the sandpaper to the soul person, to be fully present. 4th turning point is when we learn to keep it simple. Say that with me. When we learn to keep it simple, that's an important turning point to cultivating peace of mind.
I'm not very good at this. I've noticed in myself that I can make things really complicated. I can make things bigger than they need to be. Do any of you ever do that? I'm at least grateful that I'm more aware of it now than I used to be. Please don't run out and tell John, okay? You know, he's not in here right now, so if he's not in here, he doesn't get to hear it. Shh. He does a much better job than I do, my husband, of keeping things simple. But when you notice inside of yourself that you're making something bigger than it really is, you're making it more complicated, to catch yourself, and to catch yourself in a loving embrace, right? To catch yourself in a loving embrace, but then to ask very gently, could there be an easier way to be with this? Could this be made more simple? Could I make this more fun? I remember a prayer partner of mine many years ago gave me a challenging statement. He said, I want you to go through the week and look at everything you're doing and ask yourself, how would I make this easy and fun? How would I make this easy and fun? That was one of the longest weeks I ever spent in my life. How can I make this easy and fun? Okay. Fifth turning point is when we learn to put first things first. Say that with me. When we learn to put first things first. Who do you think of when you hear that statement? Covey, right. That was one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. But you know what? It's not a Covey thing. It's in our Bible. It's in our Bible. Jesus said, first the blade, then the ear, then the full grain in the ear. What is he talking about there? He is talking about sequence. He is talking about sequence. First things first. He's talking about orderliness. Some of you aren't going to like me for this statement, but I believe it is true that a certain amount of order in one's life is indicative of peace of mind. That there is a relationship between external order and internal order and internal order and external order. First things first. First things first. I do like this statement of Covey's, public victories before private victories. What does that mean? It means deal with the inside before you, deal with the outside. Deal with the inside before you deal with the outside. You hear me say this frequently. Jesus' teaching, take a look first at the speck in your own eye before you are concerned. Take a look at the log in your own eye before you are concerned about the speck in your brother's eye. He is telling us, work on yourself first. First things first. And the 6th and the last turning point that I want to share with you on this idea of cultivating peace of mind is one day at a time. Say that one with me. One day at a time. Now let's say it with a smile. One day at a time. One day at a time. In the Bible, it's said a little differently. It said, this too shall pass. It's meaning the same thing. I remember when I was so ready to not be pregnant with my daughter. I had 2 very difficult pregnancies. I was sick all of the time. And I was so ready to be done. Can any of the moms in here relate to that, right? So ready to be done. I literally wrote on my big belly, and it was big. I gained 60 pounds with each pregnancy, okay? I wrote on my belly, this too shall pass. They cracked up in the delivery room. I'm a pretty reserved person, but I was so done with that. This too shall pass. Is there anything that you're dealing with in your life right now that's difficult for you? Maybe nod your head. Maybe it's not even in your personal life. Maybe it's just when you look out at where we are in our country right now, where we are in the world right now. We're not the only place that's experiencing a lot of anger and hatred and division. And maybe that's where you feel your frustration or your sadness or your anger or your fear. To hold on and to hold on to your own internal peace of mind, to remind yourself, this too shall pass. To go back to the 3 ideas that I shared with you from Ruth King's book, Mindful of Race. It's not personal. It's not perfect. And it's not permanent. Everything will change. To recap very quickly, if you had the choice, which would you choose? The granting of your petition or the grace to be peaceful, whether it is granted or not? And the 6 turning points for cultivating peace of mind: when we learn to not take it personally, when we learn to let it go, when we learn to be here now, when we learn to keep it simple, when we learn first things first, and when we learn one day at a time. Namaste.
Many people enjoy Reverend Wendy's talks and meditations and aren't able to attend the Unity Center in person. If you're part of our extended family from around the world and would like to help support the Unity Center, please go to our website or download our free app, which offers even more ways to connect with the Unity Center. Namaste.